There are secrets out there, guys, performance marketing secrets, and knowing just one or two of them can absolutely light up your funnels. Let's go. This is the Revenue Driven CMO. I'm your host, Chris Mechanic. Join me as I uncover the secrets of the world's most elite CMOs and marketing leaders. The Revenue Driven CMO is sponsored by Web Mechanics, the AI-driven performance agency that makes you smarter. Hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours, even if you're already a client. If you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenuedrivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenuedrivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Revenue Driven CMO. I'm your man, Chris Mechanic, and we have a real treat for you here today. Our guest today is an award-winning marketing executive who just recently won Forbes 30 Under 30. Business Insider calls her one of the most creative people under 30. Digiday called her Changemaker. She is former executive vice president at Cheddar, as well as VP Global Creative at BuzzFeed. But at her current company, she's been instrumental in taking them from basically 0 to 6 million users in under 5 years. Currently, she is Chief Creative Officer at ClickUp. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Melissa Rosenthal. How are you, Melissa?
I am great. Thank you for the introduction. Thanks so much for having me. Fun fact, I am no longer under 30, but
wow.
I appreciate the intro.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us, But that is very, very impressive. I would have liked to have won like a 40 under 40. I never ended up doing it. And I'm 39 right now.
You have a year left.
Maybe I can still do it.
Yeah. I'm sure they're working on 50 under 50. So,
Right. 50 is the new 40 after all. Cool. Well, I'm super excited to be interviewing you. And I'm super excited to learn more about ClickUp. But you know how we roll. We like to lead with the value. You have had an amazing career, especially for being so young. What has one of your biggest success secrets been?
Yeah, I would say I've always kind of led with a contrarian view in everything that I've done, and I think a lot of that has really been attributed to a few things. One being a little bit naive enough to not know what you don't know and not let that hinder your ability to think differently. And an example of that is at ClickUp. I was coming into SaaS for the first time after being on the consumer marketing side for most of my career. And I really believed that we could take a different approach. And instead of all of the other enterprise SaaS companies really treating it like we have to market to this enterprise buyer in this very masculine, static, serious way, that we could add humor and we could add a humanization approach to it that most companies didn't take. And, that was sort of a big bet. It was, hey, how do we, we're going to treat the enterprise buyer like we're going to treat a self-serve buyer, and everyone is going to ladder up to this same holistic brand. And from we're going to build out our narratives and customize certain pieces of our collateral and of our marketing materials. But holistically, our brand would be more consumer than it would feel B2B.
Yeah. Yeah. And interesting. So you chalk it up in a way to naivety and, not knowing what you don't know. Well, for everybody listening, you should totally check out ClickUp's ads on YouTube. They're hilarious. Like the Jira exit interview one I saw,
Yeah.
that was super funny.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what is your approach? Like when you sit down and you say, "Hey," whether taking a stab at a competitor or not, like what is your approach to making humorous ads?
Yeah, I mean it's very thoughtful because I think there's two layers of being humorous. There's what you internally think is funny, and then what other people will actually think is funny. And I think
Right.
there's such a fine line between the two where you're marketing for yourself or you're marketing for your actual customers and to the narratives that people are already speaking to.
Mhm.
So I've learned to really toe that fine line. I think, we've all seen ads, we've all seen, content where we're like, wow, how did that get approved? Right. Like, who thought that this was a good idea? And
Yeah.
I didn't want to really be on that side of history. So it's always a thoughtful approach of how do we do this? Is this okay? Like, for Jira, for example, who do we want to go up against? It didn't make sense to really go up against, there are several competitors in our category that we could have punched up against. And that was one of the big first things we wanted to do, which was punch up. Um, and Atlassian is a $50 billion market cap company. Figured they could take the heat a bit. That was the second piece of it. And the other side of it was the fact that we knew we could create a narrative that was already a narrative in market. If you looked at the frustration of people that were actually using Jira, it's almost become mainstream, a meme of sorts, where you read it on Reddit or you read, there are memes going around, like we can fix this, but we can't fix Jira. So kind of
Yeah.
knowing that that was already this mainstream conversation happening, it was easier to play off of because we knew people would receive it well. And also, we were really thoughtful about the framework of how we positioned it. We knew it would be polarizing no matter what, but we knew that if we took a very almost SNL humorous approach, it wouldn't feel like a political ad campaign where we were just smearing our competitor. It's a thoughtful, clever, funny, creative approach and a framework that people are already familiar with a problem that we already know that they're dealing with. We're not making that problem up. So
Yeah.
it seems like an easy thing, but you have to go through all these steps to really understand if this is going to come out well, is this going to come across well? So when that's just kind of like a microcosm into the world of how I think about ideas and what ideas are good and what ideas should be shelves.
Yeah, so smart to like latch on to a conversation that's already happening.
Yes.
Super duper smart. So it was interesting what you said about like the difference between what you think is funny and what other people will think is funny. Um how do you like test that before you go through the effort of making an ad or a campaign or
Yeah.
putting it in market? Like is there a toe dip approach that you use?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the like how high risk we think it is. If
Yeah.
if it's something that's pretty tame that we know will come off well, we just kind of ship it. At this point, it's we trust ourselves, we trust what historically we've been able to put out. But if we are nervous, we'll go through a tool like user testing, or we'll do something to actually gauge reception and take that with a grain of salt, but understand like, hey, 5% of people aren't going to think this is funny, but like if it's more than that, like maybe we should kind of either change it or tweak it or kill it. But for the most part, our narratives are driven by, and I think this is what makes us special, are driven by the real problems that people are having in the world of work. And they speak to things that are already happening, rather than creating these fake issues. And I think that's like that really is the secret sauce to being able to connect with people through emotion, through like, oh, did you see this? This is we were talking about this the other day. When people are already having the conversations, it's easier than creating a fake ad campaign of a problem that doesn't exist and a made up word, which you see a lot, right? And that's just not our approach to it. It's like let's do it through the things that the people that are going to use our software are actually struggling with, and do that humorously.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, as a newcomer to the B2B space, you will find, as you probably have, that a lot of the content, a lot of the messaging is just boring, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
very sanitized. It's just incredibly boring. Uh, it sounds like your style is like just naturally humanizing. So like no matter where you landed, you probably would have humanized. Is humor like, in other words, let's say that you were a consultant for many brands, would your approach be like humanized and tasteful humor generally across the board, or I guess, do you think it's applicable to pretty much like all B2B brands, or do you think there's certain B2B brands that like couldn't or shouldn't even try to pull it off?
That's a good question. For the most part, I think humor can be done. And I think it's the most effective form of marketing when it's done well. Because
So fun. Yeah, so
you
effective.
you can still convey all you want to convey that are the value prop of what you're actually selling through humor. Like it's not this one or the other. Like either it's through value, you're selling features, you're selling value, or you're doing it through humor. Like, and I think for a very long time people believed that these things couldn't coexist within the holistic way that a company is marketed. So I truly believe that, like, when you distill it down, it has to be authentic to like who the brand is and how they approach themselves, again, through all of the touch points. It can, but I really do believe that that's it is a way forward for most B2B brands. Now, I think it does it seem disingenuous or weird if a brand like kind of comes out with one ad campaign that's funny and then like everything else like doesn't feel like that. A little bit. I think, like, you have to kind of own it, and approach things either, not everything needs to be laugh out loud funny, but it needs to have a tweak and a hint of that we get you, we understand you level of self-awareness. And that can be in email marketing copy and sequences. It could be in white papers. It can be in, it's tone. And it's making sure that tone is applied throughout everything that you do, even if it's a slight wink every once in a while.
Yeah. You know, there's another brand and a CMO that was on the pod. I can introduce you if you want, but it was Data Rails.
Okay.
They're an Israeli company, but I'll share their LinkedIn post, but it's like hilarious. Like they take basically like memes or uh like the little, it's a meme, but it's like a video meme where it'll show like 10 people digging a hole, and then like the boss is like standing over watching, and it points at the people digging, and it's like, these are the developers, and then it points at the boss, and it's like, this is the project manager.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um
I like
but
use of memes is always, like it's still like it doesn't matter. You can be an enterprise security company. There are ways to relate, these like conceptual things that are all very like just already easily understandable, and then
yeah,
conform through the problems that your company is solving, or through the engineers. So I love that. I think that's a great approach.
yeah, they're called Data Rails. I'll share you on their thing, and I can intro you if you want. But
Awesome.
so I think you're brilliant. I'm really, really impressed by you. The audience is going to love listening to this. Could we do an exercise for a minute? Like, I just want to kind of tap your brain, and I know it's slightly off script, but I want to get a better sense of like just how you think about stuff.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
of course.
So pretend you're me, right? I own an agency. We're
Okay.
really good at like paid search, paid social, conversion rate optimization. Uh, I would love it. Well, I believe also in humor, in tasteful humor, and really my core belief is like anything but boring, right? Because half
Yeah,
the battle is getting attention.
100%.
So, like, if you were, our head of creative, or if we hired you like as a consultant, and I was like, hey, we want to do funny stuff. Like, what are the general steps that you would go through? Like, would you first like jump on Reddit, for instance, to see like what conversations are happening around the agency space, or like kind of just walk me through your process from the request of like, hey, let's get some better ads that are humor infused, to like the actual execution.
Yeah, I mean, I would take a look at, obviously, each client, each company. I would, treat it very differently. I would say, what are the narratives that this company can own? What are the narrative adjacents that, they can play in? And then how do you bring those to life in a very humanized way where there is some level of, I see myself in that. I see my colleagues in that. I see others in that. What I
Mm.
believe is there has to be kind of a viral coefficient in the way that you think about the ads that you're creating. And if you can't find that, then it's probably not the right thing. So it's like sort of that mentality to start. And then, yeah, you start to see like, what are the conversations that people are having? What are the reels that they're creating? What are the TikToks? What are the Reddit? Like, what does Reddit say? Like all of these different places. And then like create this kind of Venn diagram of like, these are the sweet spots of where what we can own, how we can sound, and how we can do this. And then the narrative work begins, which is the challenging part. It has to really feel authentic and human. Like the conversation around AI, like there are really funny ways to do that. We've done hundreds of ads, like just in the way that people are view AI, are fearful of AI, think it'll replace their job, kind of laughing at what it can't do yet. And then, we have an AI product within our suite, and it's a part of ClickUp. And it was like, how do we tell this story and create a funnel through AI narratives to our product? And it's like, one example of that was, this would not be, it wasn't a entirely ClickUp focused ad, but the conversation was, what if AI could like summarize slow talkers? And we had this guy come in and we filmed it in-house, and it was it was a conversation between two colleagues. One asks how his weekend is, and the guy just goes, I went to the elevator and then I pressed the down button, and you see the other guy's eyes and he's like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden he hits pause, he hits AI, ClickUp summarize, and then he summarizes it and he goes, yeah, my weekend was great, man. Like, how was yours?
That's
And
awesome.
it's just kind of this thing, which is like natural office, natural work, conversations, interactions combined with what you're solving for, and the problem. So that's how I sort of look at it. Like, what is that narrative? What is the funny part? What are things within like that world that you can then create? And then I try to find that middle ground on what are people actually talking about? Is this real? Is this a funny thing? Like, slow talkers, like, yeah, it's just funny. Like, no one likes a slow talker. So
Yeah, that's hilarious. Awesome. I love that. Cool. Well, that gives us a really good idea of, how you sort of approach a new scenario. I think everybody or every B2B brand listening, especially, and even B2C brands can take a page out of this book. So how do you go from Cheddar and BuzzFeed to ClickUp? Like, how'd that happen?
that's a good question. So BuzzFeed was pretty much my first job out of college. I was an intern there, one of the first 10 employees. Saw it grow to 1,500. I was managing a team of 100 people globally.
Wow.
Yeah, it was my first kind of unicorn that ballooned into a large company. And we hit this, threshold of 1,500 people. And my old boss called me and said, hey, I want to start a new company. So I said, all right, I'm up for that challenge. And that was Cheddar. And, that was the it kind of was also a contrarian view at that time, which was now very obvious that people are going to cut the cord with cable and they're going to be subscribed to a multitude of streaming services. So from the tech angle, that allowed us to wiggle our way into a lot of these streaming services that no other live streaming company would really have been able to do before, because the cable bundle is so hard to break through. So
Mhm.
that's on the tech side. And then on the content side, we believed that we could create a young, focused media company that was really, focused on what was happening in the tech sector, and do it in a way that felt very young and cool, and like, this is what you need to know about who's raising money, what kind of companies are out there, who's running them. And no other channel, no other network was really doing that. So we kind of had this really interesting kind of shift there. And then after Cheddar, we sold Cheddar, and after that I was so kind of really just in the tech world from all of the interviews and all the content we'd been producing, that I was really interested in starting to get into the B2B side. Also at that point in time, I really wanted to be able to market a product without content being the product.
Mhm.
Like that model was a shift for me, and I really wanted to be able to leverage all of my, what I think are my superpowers in marketing, to be able to sell a solution, rather than having content be advertising and content be the actual product that you're selling. So that was why I was interested in SaaS, and ClickUp, felt like that perfect company that I could apply all these really cool things that I had learned in the B2C consumer space, and also had already built up a tone that matched my ethos of who I was. So a lot of kind of things, stars aligned for me to feel like I could join that company and be able to do what I do best. And that comes from leadership, that comes from, what they had built to date, that comes from product market fit. So that's why I made the jump.
Interesting. So it seems like you guys are just kicking ass and taking names. I did a little bit of research, and there's certainly a buzz going around. And like I said, the ads are hilarious. I'm definitely going to include some of those in the show notes so folks can see. What is, as you think back on it looks like you've been there for about 3 years. As you think back on that time, like, what are you most proud of? Is there a specific campaign or like a specific victory moment that you look back at and you're most proud of?
I'm most proud of the team that I built there. It's a team of people that like absolutely love working together. And I think the work that comes out of the company is a byproduct of the team and how well they work and how motivated and passionate they are and how they drive each other. I think if you don't really have that, the work that we do would not be possible. So I'll say that. And I think the victories are really the milestones that we've been allowed to take because of the small wins that we've had. So I don't look at it as like, wow, this campaign, there are many campaigns that I'm really proud of, but I think all of these small things that you do that are micro wins are actually way more important than the macro, like larger wins, because they all just add up over time. And it's the consistency of doing things well over and over and over again. So it's like not a cop-out answer, because I have a lot of campaigns that I'm proud of and proud of the team for creating. I think they're all hilarious. Like the team is amazing. But I do think it's just this consistency of being able to punch out like ad after ad piece of content that really resonates. People love. I mean, our user conference was one of the hardest things I've ever worked on with my team, and it was blood, sweat, and tears, and 60,000 people attended, which is what when we had our recap meeting, it was like that's more than selling out Madison Square Garden 2 nights in a row. When you think about like putting it into perspective, like you sold out Madison Square Garden 2 nights in a row and put on a conference that's trended on Twitter. It's pretty incredible. So it's so many of these moments, but to be able to get there is what I'm most proud of, I would say, through everything else.
That's huge. 60,000 people. Where was it? What city?
It was virtual, but we filmed everything in San Diego. So
gotcha.
we did not host a 60,000 person conference. That would be a little high for us,
Yeah.
right?
I was going to say that's like bigger than inbound.
Yeah, that would be bigger than inbound. But virtually 60,000 people attended. So couldn't be more proud of the team. I mean, obviously, it's not just creating the content. It's everything that goes into marketing that and getting people to actually show up, and thousands and thousands of man hours and people involved. So
that's
full company effort.
That's huge. So you've got the conference going. I see you guys are doing a lot of SEO. I see you're doing a lot of paid search, YouTube, and these different channels. What would you say is like really driving your revenue engine? Like, are there any channels or traffic sources that really jump out?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about it is all of these things are just vehicles for like having a really great product and then being able to market it. So PLG is the number one growth driver of the product overall. It's really like expansion within teams. It's people telling each other about it. It's word of mouth. SEO and all of these other paid tactics, I really do believe are these touch points on a journey. But if you don't have a killer product, you're really not driving it. So, I mean, as you probably know, attribution's really hard, right? It's like, where did they actually come in on this journey? How many touch points before? Are you really giving YouTube the credit? Are you giving SEO the credit?
Right.
It doesn't matter who you want to give the credit to. It's likely not the first place that they heard about it. So I think it's firing on all cylinders and just having an incredible product that you have internal customer advocacy for through it within companies, within having champions champions, having people wanting to talk about it. And then, yeah, all these other things are kind of that nice to have. Yeah. When they actually Google it, you have great SEO rankings. You have all these templates that come up that can help them, and thinking about the mechanisms that can actually drive that forward.
Yeah. Now when I heard like chief creative officer, my mind automatically went to, like the sales funnel, right? Like
Yeah.
pre-trial. Um, what are you guys doing like post-trial to retain, upsell, cross-sell? Like how do you sort of make sure that messaging and that tone kind of carry through after somebody signs up for a trial and even starts using it?
Yeah, I mean, it's more at that point about retention and making sure that the product experience is great and offering them, like benefits and thorough onboarding and really understanding who they are, why they're coming there, what they're using it for, giving them the best templates, the best use cases.
Yeah.
It's really about that enablement journey at that point. It's
Yeah.
like, it's what is the best, most world-class experience that you can give your customers once they've signed up. So it's much more about that. It's constantly A/B testing different things. What does the onboarding flow look like? What are you showing them when they first sign up? How can they invite their teams? What are their teams show? What are their teams see when you invite someone? I mean, it's all of the mechanisms of like what is the viral coefficient of getting people to sign up. And I think we have a great kind of built out thought process and flow of what that looks like through thousands of growth experiments. That's sort of where it comes in, where you have a really powerful growth team that understands like how do you drive people, what do you test, what do you do. So that's sort of what the focus is there.
Yeah. So most of your focus then is actually like on the
Yes.
before trial
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
That
Yes.
makes sense. Yeah,
That's
that's what
on
I thought.
less on the upsell conversion side. It's let's get them there. Let's get them excited about it. Let's have us never lose uh a or always be in the room when we're being brought up against competitors and have the majority of people want to use ClickUp and kill Jira.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love your guys' ads. I love even the content, like the written content. I spent a little bit of time on the blog.
Yes.
Really well done. Like a lot of the content was really valuable. So congratulations, you guys are kicking ass and taking names. I'm sure it's not all wine and roses though. What are some of the big challenges or what's keeping you up at night?
I mean, I think just the market this year has been tough, right? It's
Yeah.
consolidation of tech stacks and procurement processes across a lot of these larger companies where they're sticking with what they have. They don't want to venture into new tools. The CFO is in charge. So it's really combating a market that just isn't as friendly to software. Um,
Yeah.
the beauty of our product is it's pretty bundled with everything that you need. So if you want to kill your independent companies that or independent software that does like one thing, ClickUp is really that all in one. So it's hurt us a little bit less than what you would think with other software products, just because we're able to be that all in one bundle. So the consolidation actually helps us in a way, but still you're fighting an uphill battle in market when the CFO doesn't want to onboard new software, or how do you rip and replace? How do you make sure that you show more efficiency than other companies? So there's a lot of things happening in market. Luckily, we've been shielded from a lot of the true challenges that some of the other B2B companies have faced, the ones that don't have true product market fit yet, or they are an ancillary, nice to have. I would say ClickUp is much more of like your entire company runs on it, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean the same problems that everyone else is facing with just the market being very different, and efficiency being the ultimate focus.
Yeah. And have you found any techniques to combat that or like any techniques to grow regardless?
I mean, again, it's a focus on PLG. It's a focus on like what makes the product great and how can you create expansion within the product itself. That's certainly a big one. I would say the other is just being more efficient on spend, on ads, on how we create, on what we create. We had obviously a great year and we did a Super Bowl ad and we spent a lot of money on that.
Did you? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did that. It was last year or 2 years ago. But
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the times have changed. We're not spending on a Super Bowl ad, but there's certainly a lot of other creative ways to do it, and a lot of other creative ways to tell the story of what we do and why we do it and how we do it well. So, yeah, and it's just marketing efficiency is definitely the talk of the town in B2B SaaS, and everyone is kind of not spending what they used to spend on marketing. But I also believe the pendulum shifts pretty quickly. The market's kind of going, I don't know if we're hitting quite the recession that everyone predicted. So I always think that there's like, it's cyclical, like, like this stuff always happens. You see this time and time again. And, maybe we won't go back to the times where companies were being valued at 50x their revenue, but you're certainly going to see an uptick in marketing. Marketing is not going to die. So I think
Yeah.
focus on efficiency. You can't kill it all overall. Otherwise, when when the time comes again, you're going to have missed out on a lot of really crucial moments and abilities to like keep building your brand, keep top of mind.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think that the market, knock on wood, might be turning because there was a really positive CPI print, I think
Mhm.
sometime earlier in the month, and the markets were just like
Yep.
November has been a crazy month of growth in the markets.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm optimistic.
yeah, could definitely be a tide turning, knock on wood. But I also imagine like from a cost per lead, cost per trial, cost per acquisition standpoint, you guys are probably way more efficient because of that viral coefficient. Like you guys create ads that don't really look like ads or don't really feel like ads. And I bet they get, I don't know if you can see like on YouTube how many times they're shared or like how many organic views you guys earn, but I bet you're getting a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's also pretty interesting because people will rip our ads and repost them on YouTube. And
Yeah.
it's not typically something that like, marketers look at as like a metric, but like, those are all earned. Those are all like organic impressions of the brand from people just ripping our ads because they're good. So yeah, absolutely. Like I think it's a mix between like, can you create a viral coefficient in your marketing where people want to share your marketing? Like, for every seeded view that you get, how many of those are earned? That's the way that we looked at content at BuzzFeed, and I look at it the same way and at ClickUp. And the other side of that coin is just that PLG, like how do you create the virality and the coefficient within the product itself? And if you can do those things really well, I think you're going to be really successful in market. And those are the two things that we look at.
Yeah, 100%. Something else that I think a lot of B2B brands fail on
Mhm.
that could be useful for combating a slow market,
Yeah.
uh, but B2Cs are all doing it, but it's the offer, like the strength of the offer, I think is something that a lot of B2Bs lack. Like there's a lot of free trials, right, in the SaaS world,
Yeah.
but you almost never see like a like a try it for free for 3 months, like I don't know, it just seems like there's not a lot of effort put into really making the offers juicy on the front end.
On like a freemium model, you mean?
Either a freemium model or yeah, well, like on a freemium model, or even like with other types, like in the non-SaaS world, like in like a B2B services world.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everyone's like, contact us for a free consultation. Like that's the extent of their offer.
Yeah. And
But
you're
I think,
saying people don't put enough effort into kind of like that like like how are you stating it?
yeah, I think people just don't put a lot of thought into it. Like it seems like an area that people aren't really like a lot of people put a lot of thought into like, hey, how can we come up with a really good ad? But then the offer, and I'm not saying with ClickUp specifically, I'm saying with, B2Bs in general, I feel like the offer is almost like an afterthought. It's
Yeah.
like the offer is always like a free trial, but even a free trial um, can be framed and positioned in a way that it's more valuable. For instance, like if it's like you could call out certain things like, hey, it's like full featured, or like, hey, we'll like help you on board, like be onboarded in less than
Yeah.
72 hours or whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
yeah, like I think you have to be able to get, like, the user has to be able to get value out of that, right? Like you can't lock them out of everything. So I think it's that balance of like what can they do with the product for free, and
yeah,
how many people are they going to invite before it becomes, I mean, for us, like a pivotal part of their workflow where they need to use it, and the features that are on a business plan or an unlimited plan are so, it's so incrementally, it's so much cheaper to just do that, and the time that you're going to save and the efficiency. So I mean, that's the way that we look at it. Like you can still do a lot with our freemium model, but after a while, if you love the product, you're going to hopefully tell people, your company's going to grow, that those are some of the bets that you take. But yeah, I mean, I think that obviously is a very, very important part of kind of how you get people in and how you keep retention high and how you get them using your product every day. Like that's the biggest thing. It's like they need to, really be working out of it.
yeah. Are you familiar with Alex Hormozy?
I am not.
So he is like a growth guru. But I read something from him recently that I liked, which I'll share here with you, is in the vein of an offer, like a really strong offer. There's a formula that he talks about, which is on the numerator, you have the dream, like how good of a job do you do in selling the dream and the attractiveness of that dream, right?
Yep.
And then on the also on the numerator side, the plus is likelihood. So there's this, if you do a great job selling the dream and you remove all doubt, like make it highly likely that this is almost guaranteed to happen, that those are the two things on the numerator. And then on the denominator are two things. One is time delay. So the longer that it takes, the offer becomes less attractive. The other thing on the denominator is sacrifice or effort, and cost, I guess, can be bundled into that. So if it's like a really attractive outcome, high likelihood of happening with very low time delay and very low personal sacrifice or effort, then you got a really, really strong offer that you can charge a lot for. And you see it play out. Like think about a plastic surgeon versus like a gym membership,
Yeah.
right? With a gym membership, it's going to take a long time and it might never happen, right? But with a plastic surgery, it's like you sit down, with a big belly, you wake up with no belly, and it's almost 100% likely to happen. So I guess even if a free trial is a free trial, like we're working with a large B2B company that's product led, so like free trial is their main conversion. And that's what we're doing with them, is like we're not changing anything about the actual trial or anything about the post experience. We're just helping them to articulate those things basically,
Mhm.
and seeing massive conversion improvements, like nearly triple digits in terms of just how many people are filling out the form to start that free trial.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, what can you do today within that product, right?
Yeah,
And that is definitely what we try to convey. It's like, hey, like, this can be, we want to say this in our marketing. It can be as simple as or as complicated as you need, but you can start off and really just have everything in your workspace immediately. You can use a template. There's ways to, like, really shorten the time to being able to actually have a huge advantage within your workflow by using the product. So yeah, I totally agree. That's like, if you're like saying implementation is going to take 3 weeks and you have to do this and you have to jump through hoops, of course, it's so much harder to get people to convert. But if you can show the value immediately, and show how quickly that will happen, I agree.
yeah.
100%.
Templates are a great example of that. It's like tried and tested templates means it's A, less effort, less sacrifice, B, more likely to happen and more likely to be effective.
I mean, also, like, even just, I like Canva as a good example of that. If you've ever used Canva, it's like,
Mhm.
There's so many, there's thousands and thousands of templates. It's infinite almost. There's a lot of baselines, but the upgrade is constantly there, and you can see the value in what you get very quickly to the next level of what Canva Premium is. So it's, it is that it's like I can use that tool today and create something really awesome, but there's if I use it tomorrow, it's like, okay, great. I've already know how to use it. Like, hey, the upgrade is so much, the value is conveyed, it's easy to use X, Y, and Z. There's a lot more templates that I can use. So I think, yeah, your templatization of everything is really kind of key, or at least showing people a sandbox of what they can have immediately day one. No one
Yeah.
I think about having to build something out new right now. Like that's, the pressure on your job as a whole is enormous enough to then think about adding a complex, either new software, new tool, new system, like anything. So it's like you have to think about people that are already stressed within their own, what they're working with already, and cater to that mindset, and that, I agree, that speed.
100%. Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about the future, and then we'll move into the lightning round. I know you got 100 things to do, but what are some of your big priorities for 2024?
Yeah, I mean, right now it is full steam ahead. Release the new version of our product. It's getting that, getting the feedback from the world on how that's working, and marketing that appropriately, and really, bringing fully all of your work into one place with our new, with what we is now ClickUp, but was ClickUp 3.0. And a lot of that is like what it enables you to do better, faster. It's really how you want to work, which is amazing. So the priority is sharing with people exactly how that looks, right? This is built for the way that you need to work and how you want to work, and it's customizable and flexible for you, and you can pretty much do everything with it. So it's kind of full steam ahead on the 3.0, and marketing that to the world.
Brilliant. Interesting. And what's different about 3.0 in a nutshell? I see this page here. I'll check that out too. But
Yeah,
are there certain like key differences?
I mean, it's that next version of the way that people should work, and way that people want to work. It's just infinitely customizable and flexible. It's non-opinionated. So, it's like if you want to work a different way, like it's very easy to do that. Where I think that's been kind of the mantra of what we've tried to build from day one, which is like a completely non-opinionated piece of software. If you look at our
Mhm.
that it's so opinionated, it's like so static, you can't do certain things, and ClickUp is just, you can pretty much do it all now, straight from tasks, straight from whiteboards. Everything is really just, it flows together and connects together in a way that no other software does. So that's definitely, I would say, the improvements in a nutshell, but it does everything. Our AI product is next level. Our universal search is game changing. You can search through anything. I mean, the ultimate goal is to
Mm,
save you a ton of time, and I think we've really hit the mark.
brilliant. And so you've got, so it's basically Slack is built in, or Slack functionality, right? Like it's not an integration with Slack,
Chat functionality throughout tasks, yes.
and Docs also is built in. So like your Google Docs, for instance, goes away.
Yeah, you don't need to use docs anymore. You can create an entire knowledge base. You can summarize, use AI within the docs feature. So, I mean, it really does replace pretty much every tool you would need. We have our own recording, our recording software, so you don't need to use a company like Loom. So, I mean, everything really is built in. Like there are
Wow.
very few things that you can't do in ClickUp, if anything. Our full HR team hiring built into that. We do everything out of the product. So that was the ultimate goal. It's any team, any size, any company.
Wow. Okay. I think I'm starting to get it now. So it's like your applicant, like for recruiting, like your applicant tracking system is in there, your CRM is in there, your Slack, your Google Docs.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You can, I mean, really, really, you can do it all. Your marketing software,
wow.
I mean, we literally use ClickUp for everything. And the goal was to you gotta talk the talk and walk the walk. So if we're going to say that we're replacing everything, we need to do it ourselves as well. So the amount of software that we actually use externally is extremely low now compared to our own internal tool, which we've pretty much now used for literally everything that we do across every part of the company.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, that's awesome. You guys are on a roll. I'm really, really impressed by you and the entirety of your marketing team. So big round of applause for y'all. Golf claps, I guess we'll do on a podcast. But let's do a lightning round real quick, and then we can get you out of here.
All right, sounds great.
All right. Question number one is, if you were to start a side hustle, what side hustle would that be?
Wow. Be something in food. I'm really passionate about cooking, so I
Okay.
don't beef jerky brand or something like that. But I don't know that or some knowledge base that on the other side of it. Yeah, on the other side of food, a knowledge base that kind of combines every marketing playbook from every company that's done it well and being
Yeah.
able to create some sort of aggregate version of that where you can understand how different size companies have done different things, which I'm sure someone is working on. It kind of is just like a chat GPT wrapper that's now taken a lot of knowledge in from podcasts and things, but I still feel like there's a lot of information that's floating out there that people find nuggets of through LinkedIn, but there's not this Wikipedia of it that you can enjoy.
Mm.
That or beef jerky, very very closely tied.
That's funny. Yeah, no, both interesting ideas. Question number two is, what are your top three books or authors or influencers or podcasts even that have made a big impact on your career? Like, where do you go to learn and get inspired?
A lot on LinkedIn lately, but there have always been, there's books, which is one called How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp. That's
Mhm.
sort of level of like just understanding brand loyalty, why people will use, your products, your software, how to speak to them. That's always been very inspiring. The other one is very popular, but Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Mhm.
I had nothing in my background that should have made me successful in what I did outside of pure grit and, taking contrarian viewpoints and believing in myself and figuring out the pieces I needed to get there. So if there's anything that I would say describes like partially why I'm successful, it is my grit and ability to just be scrappy and get things done. And the third one I read recently, it was called The Surrender Experiment, which is a book about a tech executive who was, I believe he was a yoga instructor, and he kind of became like a monk and surrendered his life almost to what would happen if he gave in to a lot of the decisions that life was pulling him in, and had led him, it led him from this building this kind of yoga retreat house for colleagues and friends to running a multi-billion-dollar software company. And the journey from him getting there is through these moments of what he calls surrender. And it was a pretty interesting read, and just kind of changes your perspective on everything that you deal with every day and what you surrender to and let lead you rather than force and try to push in a different direction. So those are three books that I would highly recommend. And yeah, I mean, I'm constantly listening to other B2B podcasts and on LinkedIn. That's definitely my daily, like, how do I get inspired by real people? I believe in people as funnels for speaking about the things. And I've seen, the trend of building in public is definitely one that I'm a fan of, because you can really get some great insights and great thought provoking things from people out there that are actually doing the work.
Interesting, interesting. Any particular people on LinkedIn that you are loving these days?
I really like Anthony Canada from Audience Plus, and I'm an advisor at the company, but I think he's doing the right thing with the way that he builds in public and shares past, present, future experiences of how it is builds a company that is focused on brands creating owned media and why owned media is important. So I think he's done a great job. I mean, there's just so many other people, but I'll spotlight him.
Cool. All right, I love it. And question number three is, well, what do you do to avoid burnout, and how do you help your team also avoid burnout?
Great question. I mean, I think like when you're at a startup, it's always a level of work life and balance. I think that's just the nature of it. I think I'm kind of drawn to that anyway. But I think it's allowing people to work the way that they want to work and kind of sticking to what we say about how we build the product. Most of the work, although there's an office, is async, and people, if you get your work done and you're putting out great results, I don't care where you're working, how you're working, So I think it's just making sure that people have the time and the space and mental energy to be able to put their best foot forward and put their best work out there. And that takes a level of allowing them to work the way that they need to work when they want to work. So
Yeah.
Descriptive and I'm not a, hey, show up, I need to see your face from 9 to 5. It's just not, I think, the reality of the way that the world should be working, and that most people actually get the best out of themselves. Most people don't some people work really well at night. Some people work really well in the morning. Some people need to surf during the middle of the day to refresh. Some people need to take a 3-hour shower to gather their thoughts, whatever it is that inspires you or enables you to come up with the ideas and progress yourself. I don't care how it's done. So
Awesome. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for your time here today. This has been awesome. I'm sure that listeners are really, really enjoying this. If people want to learn more about you or ClickUp, where would you direct them?
Well, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I do post a lot. So Melissa Rosenthal, I'm pretty easy to find. And then, check out more about ClickUp. You can visit our YouTube page. We have an amazing ClickUp University if you want to be walked through the beginnings, the intermediate to expert level versions of how you use the product, and check it out at clickup.com and check out ClickUp 3.0.
Nice. I'm going to do that myself. I encourage everybody else to do the same. And if you like this, if you learn anything, or if you laughed a little bit today, drop us a 5-star review wherever you get your pods. We really appreciate that. And that's a wrap. That was another exciting episode of Revenue Driven CMO, and we will see you next time. And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us here today. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at revenuedrivencmo.com. That's revenuedrivencmo.com. And hey, exclusive for listeners of this podcast, Web Mechanics will do 10 to 20 hours of work for you for free. Literally no sales calls, no BS. Just give them a problem and they will put a team to work for you for free for 10 to 20 hours. Even if you're already a client, if you're struggling with demand gen, lead gen, SEO, SEM, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, conversion optimization, if you can't get Facebook or Meta ads to work for the life of you, or you can't figure out attribution, Web Mechanics will take a good hard look at whatever problem you give them, whatever programs you put in front of them, and they will give you an objective, informed opinion, plus some advice from 10 to 20 hours of senior level attention. And that's just because you're a listener of this podcast. So I would suggest take them up on this offer. It's ridiculous. Go to revenuedrivencmo.com/free, fill out the 2-minute form, and you will not regret it. Literally zero downside, unlimited potential for growth. So do yourself a favor, revenuedrivencmo.com/free, no hyphens, no punctuations. You will be happy about that decision.